Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to today's Caffeine for the Soul. And one of my favorite things to explore for myself is what it is to live a guided life. In other words, a life where I have a sense that if I don't know what to do, I know how to get to what to do. And over the years, I've tried the same things as most people. And what I want to share in today's session is I want to share what I've seen as like the three most common things that people try to use for guidance, and then something that works shockingly well, but is surprisingly simple. And so the first thing that most people try when they want to decide what to do is they try and find the right thing to do or the best thing to do. So in business, people are always looking for, well, what's best practice around this? Or, what's the right way to become successful? Or what's the best practice around managing stress? Or what's the right way to treat my fellow human beings? And the problem with trying to navigate by the right way to be, or the shoulds, the rules, if I just find the rules and follow them, if I just find the shoulds and do what I should, my life should work, is that nobody can agree on the freaking rules. I don't know if you've noticed this, but people actually believe completely opposing ideas about what the right way to be is and the right way to do things. And very often, even the best way might work fantastic for the person it worked for, but wouldn't work at all for you. And similarly, what works for you might not work at all for someone else. So if there was a right way to be, it would make sense that we spend all our time trying to figure it out and follow it. But if after 5,000 plus years of human exploration, nobody can agree on the right way to be, it might be because there isn't one. So if I'm not going to use the shoulds and the rules to try and navigate my life, well, what else could I navigate my life by? So what a lot of people try and navigate their life by is their feelings. If I'm excited about something, I should do it. And if I'm not excited about it, I shouldn't do it. But the problem with using what I would say is excitement and apathy or excitement and discouragement to navigate your life is excitement and discouragement flip-flop based on your thinking. Because what the feeling of excitement is thinking about something you want to have happen and imagining that it happens, or thinking about how great it would be if it happened, or thinking about how fun it would be to do something, and that you'll feel excited. But then if you're thinking about, oh, it might not happen, or you think about how hard it's going to be, or you think about, well, I know it's the thing to do, but it's going to be so much work, you'll feel discouraged and downhearted. And since our thinking is continually changing, we'll start out on a path filled with excitement, and then we get discouraged and give up. Or we think about something that we've always really wanted to do, but I've been down this road before, there's no point, and we discourage ourselves. So feelings are just so fickle. They're so a function of my thinking in the moment that they're a really not terribly useful way to navigate life. Now, the third most common way, and the third thing that I used to try is feedback from the universe. So if I'm trying something and life keeps pushing back, and, life keeps saying no, and I keep trying and it doesn't happen, well, surely that's life telling me this isn't the path for me. But if things are flowing and they're easy and they're rolling, well, I guess that must be my path. Now, that one kind of makes some sense until you think about it in the broader picture. If you need to actually, this is the analogy that I've been using when I've been talking to people. I used to drive, I lived in London, and I used to do a sitcom in Cardiff in Wales. And so you would drive, there's really one way to get there at the time, which was the M4, which was the big motorway. And there were times where the traffic was just terrible. And there were other times where it was fine. And there were times where the rain was so heavy, I couldn't safely go more than 30 miles an hour. There were other times where it was sunny and clear. If I had let the weather or the traffic tell me whether or not to go to Cardiff, I wouldn't have had my job in Cardiff for very long. So getting that kind of feedback from the universe is really not a helpful way to make your decisions unless you are so freeform in what you're doing that it doesn't really matter. In a similar way, if I kind of stick with the car analogy, right, that would be like since excitement and discouragement vary depending on my thinking, on how I'm using my mind, it would be like, well, if there's a check engine light on my car, that means I shouldn't go the way that I'm going. But if there's no check engine light, that means I should go the way that I'm going. If the car is driving really smoothly, that means I should be going this way. But if it's juddering a little and I'm having troubles with the shocks, that tells me I shouldn't be going the way I'm going. Again, makes no sense in the real world, but when we think about us, it sort of does. So if you're not going to navigate by the right way to be, if you're not going to navigate by your feelings, if you're not going to navigate based on feedback from the universe, how else can you do it? And I just want to share a simple experiment that I have played with over the years that has proven itself so reliable. It was actually what my first book, You Can Have What You Want, was about, before I'd ever come across the insight on understanding that I share here. And it really works remarkably well. Here's how it works. Do you want to? That's it. Do you want to? Now let me share 2 stories that will show you what a profound impact checking in with that can make in your life. So for many years, I was doing this work, but I was relatively unsuccessful. Not unsuccessful in the sense that I wasn't able to help people, but I toiled in obscurity. And in fact, one of my coaches said, "You seem to have an unconscious commitment to flying under the radar so that nobody notices you." And I said, "Oh, well, okay, should I fly over the radar?" And they looked at me like I was crazy and went, "Well, that would be the same thing." And I started to notice that I really shied away from success. That even while in my mind, I thought, well, it'd be cool to be successful, I seemed to do an awful lot to avoid it. And then one day, and this is a true story. It never sounds like a true story, but it's a true story. It's a very Hollywood story. I'm in Hollywood, and I'm going to visit a friend, and he lived at the top of a big hill, and there was no parking. So I wound up parking at the bottom of the hill. And I'm sitting in the car kind of gearing up for the hike up to his apartment. And this very pretty girl starts walking down the street towards me and taking off her clothes. Now, despite whatever you may think about Hollywood, not a normal occurrence, at least not in my world. But this was happening, and then suddenly I saw these guys with cameras, and I realized, oh God, it's like a guerrilla porno shoot. They're like filming some porn on the street in front of me. And I started laughing, and in that moment, I had a bizarre insight. And I realized, oh, the reason that I've been so reluctant to become famous or successful is because in my mind, when I became famous and successful, I would have to start doing drugs and cheat on my wife. Now, I can sort of explain because I'd met a lot of people that I was working with at the time who were very successful and did drugs and cheated on their partners. But in the moment of seeing that that's what was going on, the question occurred to me, do I want to? And I was like, no, I don't want to cheat on my wife, and I don't want to take drugs. And literally within the next week, I got a job that had been on offer, but for 7 months I'd been putting it off. And a couple other things came through, and literally my business more than doubled in 1 week, just from seeing that I didn't want to do the things that I was afraid would just happen if I took the path that was in front of me. Now, here's another one that's more recent. My understanding of business has always been that, well, the goal in business is to make as much as you can doing as little as possible. Now, that doesn't mean not helping people, but, everything I'd read about building a business is about leveraging your time, leveraging your efforts. And that made sense. It was the right way to do business, but it never felt great. And it was never something that I really could throw my back into. And so it occurred to me to ask myself, well, what do I actually want to do? Do I want to keep striving to do less and make more? And the answer was such a clear no that I didn't even have to think about it after that. And then the question came up, well, what do I want to do? And I realized I wanted to do more of what I do, not less. And I do fine. I don't really care beyond the basics about the money. And so for the first time in probably, well, actually, it might be for the first time in 35 years of doing this, I've actually come up with some way lower priced ways of working with people so that I can work with more people. So I will say, if you want to check it out, go to michaelneill.org/work-with-Michael, and you'll see what's on offer. But the larger point is you can navigate your entire life based on, do I want to? And variations on that question. Do I actually want to do this? Do I not actually want to do this? And here's the experiment, the simple experiment in living a guided life. For the next week, if you're wondering what to do about something, just ask yourself, come up with one of the options, go, do I want to? And you will always get, yes, always, one of three answers. Yes, no, I don't know. And I don't know is an answer. It's sort of the equivalent of the magic 8 balls, ask again later. And life starts getting ridiculously simple. Now, I recommend starting with the easy stuff. Do I want to get lunch? Okay. Do I want a sandwich? Okay. Do I want tuna? Start simple. Because it's the exact same process whether you're wondering whether or not you want lunch as to whether you're wondering whether or not you want to go on a particular career path or relationship path or spiritual path. Have fun, learn heaps, happy exploring, and I'll talk with you soon.